Hello, welcome to the Positive Posting Conversation, the show about how to have a better relationship with your dog and cat. I'm Zazie Todd, author of the books Bark, Wag and Purr, and creator of companion animal psychology blog. My co-host, Christy Benson, is a dog trainer and anthropologist, and she also works at the Academy for Dog Trainers. We can't give advice on your pet, so if you have concerns, see your dog trainer, cat behaviourist, or veterinarian as appropriate. Thanks for joining us today. This is the recording of the panel Caring for Cats with Lili Chin, Mikel Delgado, PhD, and Lucy Hoile. It was recorded at BarkFest, the book festival for animal lovers, in September 2024. I organised the festival to celebrate the launch of my new book, Bark, The Science of Helping Your Anxious, Fearful or Reactive Dog, which The Guardian says is encyclopedic in scope and packed with references to new findings about animal behaviour. In the panel discussion, although we refer to both Bark and Lucy Hoile's book, The Book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read, as available for pre-order, in fact, they've both been published now, and so all of the books from the festival are available wherever books are sold. I hope you enjoy the recording. Hi, everybody. Welcome to BarkFest. I'm thrilled to welcome you to this event, Caring for Cats, with Lili Chin, Lucy Hoile, Mikel Delgado, and with my co-host, Christy Benson. I'm going to start with some housekeeping, though. I have a couple of things to let you know. One is that the recording will go out after 72 hours. That's because I need time to check it, and there are a lot of events at BarkFest. Those of you who are here live have a chance to win a copy of each of the books featured here. Depending on where you are geographically, in some cases that might be an ebook or there might be a geographical restriction, but you have a chance to win a copy of Kitty Language by Lili Chin, a copy of Play With Your Cat by Mikel Delgado, a copy of The Book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read by Lucy Hoile, which are the books that we're talking about today, and they're all phenomenal, and you definitely should buy all of them. And because this is BarkFest, you also have the chance to win a copy of my upcoming book, Bark, The Science of Helping Your Anxious, Fearful or Reactive Dog, which is out on October the 1st and is available for pre-order now. I will do the draw at the end of this session. So I have to wait for it to finish and a bit of Zoom processing to happen first. So I see lots of you are already using the chat box. Thank you for that. It's great to know where you're joining us from. It's amazing to have so many people here. I think it shows how many people love their cats. You also have a Q&A box. If you have questions for our authors, please put them in the Q&A box. And we will get to those at the end. If your question is for a specific author, please put their name right at the beginning of your question to make it easy for us to pick them out and ask them to the right people. So first of all, I want to thank Christy for helping me today. Christy Benson, I think most of you will know as my co-host from the Positive Post in Conversation. Christy is a Northern anthropologist. She's an amazing dog trainer, and she's also a staff member at the Academy for Dog Trainers, and she will be helping me run the session today. Hi, Christy.
Hello.
Well, with us today, we have three amazing authors to talk about their books. So let me introduce each of them. Lili Chin is an artist best known for her animal-related art. Since 2008, she's been providing custom illustration and a catalogue of art products for sale and creating educational illustrations for the world of companion animal behaviour and welfare. And a partial list of the prominent behaviourist authors and organisations that have used her art include the late Dr. Sophia Yin, Fear Free Pets, the RSPCA, Wallace Annenbo Pet Space, and International Cat Care. Her first book, Doggy Language, A Dog Lover's Guide to Understanding Your Best Friend, was published by Summersdale Hachette in 2020. It's won 2 awards, and it's been praised for making an important subject matter more fun and accessible. Her second book, Kitty Language, which she's talking about today, An Illustrated Guide to Understanding Your Cat, was published in 2023 by 10 Speed Press and Penguin Random House. Both books have been translated to multiple languages around the world. Lili is Malaysia-born, spent most of her youth in Sydney, Australia, and currently lives in Los Angeles with a writer husband and 2 rescued and bonded cats, Mambo and Shimmy. Hi, Lili. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Zazie. Thank you for having me.
We also have Dr. Michael Maria Delgado, who is a certified applied animal behaviorist and certified cat behavior consultant who has been working with cats professionally for over 20 years. She worked as a cat behavior specialist at the San Francisco SPCA for 8 years before co-founding Feline Minds, where she offers assistance for cat owners, animal shelters, and corporations. Michael completed her PhD in animal behavior and cognition at UC Berkeley and was a postdoc at the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, where she researched the social and feeding behaviors of cats and the health and behavior of orphaned neonatal kittens. She's the author of the book Play with Your Cat, which was published by Tarcher Perigee, and she also co-authored the 2017 book Total Cat Mojo with Jackson Galaxy. Michael lives in Sacramento, California with her boyfriend and their 3 cats, Ruby, Coriander, and Professor Scribbles. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Zazie.
And we're also joined by Lucy Hoile. Lucy is a feline behaviorist and author of the book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read. As an expert in feline behavior, Lucy has been improving the lives of cats and their carers since 2010 by resolving their challenging behaviors. She holds a master's degree in companion animal behavior counseling, and she's one of only a handful of exclusively fully accredited feline behavior practitioners in the UK. Lucy lectures on cat behavior on an international scale and aims to reach as many cat carers as possible through talks, books, articles, and social media. Lucy and her family are lucky enough to share her home with 2 cats, Fig and Sparks, Labrador, Bucky, and Axolotl Peach. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Zazie.
Thank you so much to all of you for being here. So we are going to give the audience an opportunity to take a photo of us with our books. So grab your phones if you would like to get a photo, and we're all going to pause for a minute and hold up our books. And I would be very grateful if someone from the audience would let me know when you've got it. Just type "got it" into the chat when you've got your photo. Thank you.
I don't have any books, so I'm holding up cat treats.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. So we will move to our questions. We're going to do an individual set with each author, and then we're going to have a plenary session, and we'll also have lots of time for audience questions too. So we're going to start with Lili, please. Thank you, Lili. Your first book, Doggy Language, was a huge success. Did you already know that you wanted to make a cat book for it, or did the idea come to you later, and how did the book come about?
The idea came about later because at the time I didn't have cats. I had a dog. The idea came about because I was being asked by my publisher to do a cat version of Doggy Language. And it did actually take a year or 2 before I sort of warmed to the idea and became excited about it. And that was when we adopted our cats, Mambo and Shimmy.
Brilliant. Thank you. And it's really great that you did this book because in general, there isn't as much information as cats as there hasn't been about dogs. And this crop of books that we've got here is kind of the start of a change for that. So how did you go about doing the research for the book?
The research came from many different places. Like the biggest inspiration were my own cats, Mambo and Shimmy. I was obsessed with observing them every day and drawing them and asked lots of questions. I read a lot of books, including Purr, and watched a lot of YouTube videos, attended seminars, and also spoke to cat behavior consultants. Like I would send videos of my cats and say, what are they doing? How are they feeling? Are they playing? Are they fighting? So I learned a lot from conversations as well as reading.
That's great. And you even went and studied cat facts, didn't you? How was it to learn that?
That was fascinating. So cat facts is, there was a workshop on studying cat facial movements, and they're very subtle. There are lots of videos to analyze. And I mean, I didn't pass the test, but I still learned a lot from going through all these videos and drawing them and scrutinizing them and seeing subtle ear movements or eye movements. And I mean, usually I think people assume that cats are not very expressive compared to dogs because they have less facial muscles. But I think with a trained eye, there is a lot to see. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, sure. And you mentioned your cats, Mambo and Jimmy, and that they were part of the inspiration. How much did they influence you when you were working on the book, and in what ways did they influence you?
So their relationship was really inspiring and really interesting to me. For example, there's there's a scent chapter in the book, which looks at how cats are very reliant on scent information. And I remember when we first adopted Mamba and Shimmy, they went to one of them went to the vet. Shimmy went to the vet, and she came home, and Mamba sniffed her and just lunged and bit her and ran away. And that absolutely freaked me out. Like, I had no idea what was going on. I know this is probably common to a lot of cat owners, but I was new to this. So, and then learning that he didn't recognize her because she smelled different. I mean, I thought that was really important information. And so that went in the book. So a lot of, there are many pages in the book that came from my own personal life experience with Mamba and Shimmy, and my deciding that, yes, this is important for people to know. It's not that my cat's being aggressive for no reason, or he's just an asshole or anything like that. Sorry for swearing. But that, it's just scent. It's scent information that we don't have access to.
Yeah, for sure. And so you did a lot of research for the book. While you were working on it, what did you learn that actually surprised you about cat body language?
What surprised me, I think the subtleness of cat body language compared to dogs, and how I know it is contextual as well for dogs, like how we interpret body language for dogs, but with cats, it's a lot more. There's a lot more that they're sensitive to, that we may, as a human being, that I don't hear or I don't smell. And that was a big revelation.
Yeah, sure. So you have so many adorable drawings in the book to illustrate different aspects of the cat body language. Do you have a favorite aspect of feline body language that you illustrated in the book?
My favorite chapter was the play chapter with cats playing. I think because I just love watching my cats play and with each other and with toys as well. So that was a lot of fun. I would look at videos that I'd taken of them playing, also videos of other cats playing on YouTube or on social media. And that was my reference for drawing. And that was a lot of fun.
So much fun. Thank you. It's great to hear in your own words about the book. It's an absolutely wonderful book. I think it should be on every cat lover's bookshelf. All of these 3 books should be on every cat lover's bookshelf. And I know you've got some illustrations to show us. So is it okay to turn over to you to show us the illustrations and do your reading from the book, please? And I'll just go off camera while you do that, but I'm still here.
Okay. So just bear with me, because this is, I'm quite new to sharing screen. Oops. Screen, start broadcast. Okay. So I'm just going to show these slides. So this is kitty language. I'm just going to read a few pages from the book. So first of all, I have to share a photo of my cats, Mamba and Shimmy, because they were drawn a lot in the book. They were my models and my reference and inspiration.
I can't actually see them at the moment, unfortunately, Lily.
Oh, okay. Let me try again.
Yeah, just try again. Don't worry. We're full of technical issues today, just so that the audience knows I had major technical issues before the beginning. So
Can you see them now?
I think you've frozen, Lily. So it may be that you need to log out and back in again, perhaps, even. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So Lily will be back in just a moment to show her illustrations. And I'm very sorry to the audience. We're several of us having technical issues today, which is unfortunate, but these things can happen at live events. And I'm just going to give Lily a second to get back. And thank you to all of you for typing in the chat. It's good to know that there are so many people here. There's actually almost 80 people here live, which is amazing. And I would love to know what kind of cat you have. If you actually have a cat, that's something that you can let us know in the comments, please. It's amazing to see people from so many different places.
Oh, okay. I'm back. Can you?
Thank you, Lily. We can hear you. Yes. So you can try again.
Let me try again. Start broadcast. All right. Is that working now?
No, I still can't see anything.
I'm so sorry about this.
That's quite all right. We checked all this immediately before we started. And the nature of technology sometimes is that you do these things and then it just doesn't
Okay.
Doesn't work.
All right. So I'm afraid I could just.
You could hold up some pictures from the book and we can look at those. How's that?
Okay. All right. Let's do that. Now, if I can get back to Zoom.
Well, we can see you.
Okay.
We can see you, so you can just talk to us.
So, first of all, I'm going to share a picture of Mambo Chimmy. They're the inspiration for this book. And I'll just go to the pages I was going to read from. So the first page I was going to read from is rotated ears. So that's a photo of Shimmy with her ears rotated. So rotated ears, also referred to as swiveled ears, sideways ears, or squid ears. The visual signs are both ears stay rotated, tips point up or to the back, ears appear skinnier from the front. What your cat may be feeling: unsettled, confused, frustrated, things are not okay, I need to be on my guard. Tip: both ears rotated and facing outward could mean that your cat is listening to two things at the same time, coming from opposite sides. You can tell if your cat is stressed by how long both ears stay in this position. The farther back the rotation, the more frustrated your cat is feeling. And if the ears are lowered at the same time, there is fear. So I don't know if you can see that. All right.
Yes, beautiful.
Okay. Next page I'm going to read from is moving confidently. Kitty. Visual signs: direct approach, head position at shoulder height or higher, ears forward, tail is high and softly curled. Also see pages 56 to 57. What your cat may be feeling: happy, confident, and comfortable, friendly. And there's a little word bubble that says hello, ears forward, head above shoulder height, tail up soft, and approach. The next page I'm going to read from comes from the conflicted and stressed chapter. This is hiding. Visual signs: staying out of sight, not responding. If there is no way to hide, pressing their face and body into a tight corner. What your cat may be feeling: stressed, unsafe, or unwell. Note: not having a safe and private place to hide is more stressful for a cat than hiding. And so there's an image of a cat with their face pressed into the corner of the carrier. This actually came from real life as well, with Mambo being at the vet. Another one is pretending to sleep. A cat may pretend to be asleep if there is nowhere safe to hide. The visual signs are huddled, crouching posture, not responding. Head is tucked into body, eyes are not fully shut. What your cat may be feeling: very stressed, shut down. If I look like I'm asleep, they may leave me alone. And there's the image of a cat in a cage with the word bubble: I'm not really here. And finally, I'll read some pages from the play chapter, social play. Again, you can see that. Social play. Cat play is easily misinterpreted as fighting. When two cats are playing, it is non-serious ritualized conflict. Their rough and tumble play body language can look like aggression, but it's more like a sporting event. The visual signs are stare-offs, rotating ears, arched backs and puffed up fur, big tail movements. How we know this is fun play: mostly silent with no hissing, growling, or squealing, swatting or smacking with claws in, no pain or injury. Biting is inhibited with no pain or injury. Cats swap top and bottom positions. Lots of short pauses. Also see play pauses on page 146. Easy for either cat to leave, but they choose to return or stick around. And there's some images of cats playing. And this was like a lot of fun to draw. And that's it. There's a few pages.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lily. That was beautiful. I'm sorry about the technical issues. These things happen, but it was lovely to see the photos held up to the camera anyway, so the pictures. So thank you very much. And that was a beautiful reading. Now I'm going to ask Michael to come on camera, and we're going to interview Michael next. I'm going to just check if Christy is still with us.
I'm here.
Yeah. Over to you, Christy.
Perfect. Wonderful. So, Michael, the title of your book is like an instruction for what people should do: play with your cat, which I think is so lovely that there's a whole book on this. So why is play good for cats?
Play is good for all of us, in my opinion. There's definitely a whole body of research looking at play behavior in animals, and basically every species that has been studied will show play behavior, from bees to chimpanzees to dogs, pigs, humans, of course, which leads to the question why. And, I think a lot of evidence points to the fact that there are benefits to play. Specifically for cats, I would say the benefits are that we are enabling them to experience a species typical natural behavior, which, basically the type of play I'm talking about, which is interactive play, meaning, a stick with a string and a lure on the end, is allowing cats to engage in what we would call pseudo-predatory behavior. They're just directing that hunting behavior towards a toy instead of a small prey animal.
Awesome. So what are some of the common mistakes that people make when trying to engage their cat in play? And I definitely was like, when I read your book, I was like, yeah, I've done some of those. So sorry, Africat.
Yeah, I've had a lot of opportunity to observe humans interacting with their cats from working in a shelter and then from doing home consults. And what I see, probably the biggest mistake people make is that they assume that their cat won't play if their cat won't play with them or won't play with them in the specific circumstance. Maybe it's the toy, maybe it's how they're moving the toy, maybe the cat is bored of the toy. Maybe the human is moving the toy in a way that's scary or not realistic. So that's one big issue, I think, is just assuming that cats don't play, or while they're adults, they don't need to play anymore. And if we think about hunting again, for good welfare, we are thinking about animals being able to express those natural behaviors. Adult cats still would need to hunt to survive. So they have that hunting instinct. It may not be quite as over the top as kittens, but that need to play should continue throughout their lifespan as long as they're healthy. So another mistake I would just say is like moving the toy in a way that is not going to bring out that hunting instinct. And so a common one I would see at the animal shelter is we would often give people a toy to play with the cats when we'd go meet them. So someone wants to adopt a cat, we take them into the room to meet the cat, and the person would start tapping the cat with the toy, like wiggling it in their face, things that no bird or mouse would do. So these things would get a reaction from the cat. The cat would often kind of turn their head and be like, what are you doing? But the reaction was not a playful one. It was not a pleasant one. It was a irritated one. So I think the other thing is just people need to understand what types of moves of the toy are going to bring out that hunting instinct in their cat.
So can you tell us something about the development of social play in cats?
Yeah, I mean, Lili showed you some pictures that she drew for her book about social play, and kittens are at their peak of social play behavior from, they start when they're about 3 weeks old. So as soon as they can start moving in their nest, they become very interested in their litter mates. And that interest in social play and social interactions peaks between 3 weeks and 4 months of age. And then it starts to decline around the same time that kittens would naturally become more independent and not engage in as many friendly social interactions, right? So we, of course, make a lot of assumptions about social interactions based on the cats that we live with, and we do spay and neuter most of those cats, and we do separate them from their litter mates when they're young. So they're not necessarily living the same type of social life that they would if they were a free-roaming colony cat, whether they're intact or spayed and neutered. All of those things are going to have an impact on their behavior. So what's really interesting is that we have a lot of information, a lot of research on kitten play behavior, but most of that research stops when the kittens turn around 6 months of age. So there's very little research on adult cat social play, social behavior, social anything. I think people have made a lot of assumptions that cats are not social animals. And of course, that assumption has been turned on its head. But because of that, there's been a real lack of good research on cat sociality. And that's starting to change a little bit, but it's still a huge gap. So as far as what social play is, it looks a lot like fighting. And that's something that Lili touched on as well, probably because it's practice for hunting, right? So a lot of, just like the play with the interactive toys is very similar to hunting, social play is going to be much more similar to fighting. It's just much more subdued. So when cats are social playing versus fighting, that play tends to be silent. It tends to be mutual. So cats that are playing are going to take turns kind of being the instigator and chasing. It should be like Keystone Cops, right? They switch roles and they're, taking turns chasing each other. That play should not cause injuries. And it should be fairly inhibited and easy to distract the cats from. But I do think, it is one way that cats express their friendship. And so when we see kind of healthy, playful behavior that is not fighting and not conflict, then that is typically a good sign of cats' relationships.
Very fun. Kind of makes me think that maybe Apricot would like a friend, but as I was saying before we started,
be careful.
He has friends in Archer.
Yeah. And of course, social play does not have to be with other cats, right? And I talk about this in the book. It can be with humans, it can be with dogs, it can be with some other animals, although you always want to be careful with the smaller prey species. Those are not animals that cats should be allowed to play with. But certainly, yeah, I've known plenty of cats that preferred the company of dogs to the company of other cats.
Hey, I think, and it's funny how they sort of position themselves, because Archer's so tall. Apricot will get on the table, and then Archer will be like, "Is it playtime now?"
Yeah. So they have play signals, not as clear. Dogs have that very clear play bow. Cats don't have the same repertoire of communication that dogs do, and that's for various reasons. But one is kind of their social structure, and probably also their domestication being much shorter than dogs. But kittens do kind of make a play face, and of course, we'll see certain behaviors that, again, are very similar to fighting behaviors in cats when they're playing, like the puffing up and kind of side prancing and stuff are playful behaviors when cats are soliciting play from another. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to watch for more of that. So I love how all of these books actually talk about how every cat is an individual. And it was so, I just loved reading about how you have a cabinet with the different lures and the different, the research about what that sort of evokes in cats. And then I'm looking here at Apricot's favorite lure toy, which is a flower. And he's not like a flower type dude. So it's kind of funny to me that he's just like, yes, we shall play with this floral arrangement. So how can we tailor play to suit a particular cat's personality?
A lot of experimentation. So that's one thing I really wanted to encourage people when reading this book. I'm a scientist, so I'm always testing hypotheses and trying to game out like all the possible explanations. What are the possible things that could evoke a playful reaction from a cat, or anything really. When I'm approaching a problem, it's like, okay, let's try different strategies and see what works. And so I really wanted this book to, it is in some senses a how-to, because I do give people a lot of instruction, but I kind of want it to be like a menu that you choose from, and encouraging people to try different things, including a lot of homemade cheap options. So it's not like I'm saying you have to buy like thousands of dollars worth of toys for your cat to make them happy. My cats love green beans. That's like one of their favorite toys to play with. So, it does not have to be expensive. But I would say that is the thing, is to just be open and observe your cat while you're playing with them and see what moves get them excited or get them staring and stalking and going through that whole sequence of hunting behaviors, which includes a lot of stalking and staring. So it's not always just what gets them doing backflips and racing around, because a lot of hunting behavior for cats is stalking, and that is a much slower, more drawn out process. And I think sometimes people get bored through that part of it. But, for the cat, it can be quite exciting.
For sure. I'm definitely going to try the green bean thing. That's amazing. So overweight cats and obesity is a problem for many pet cats. So what are your tips for engaging an overweight cat in play?
Just like we would with like older cats, is kind of recognizing that they have some physical limitations. So, I would not say that, and I talk about this in the book, unfortunately, playing with your cat isn't necessarily a fast track to weight loss. There's very little research on how the exercise impacts cats' weight. So the factors that are risk factors for obesity and overweight tend to be things like indoors only, fed freely, so they have free access to as much food as they want. Being spayed and neutered, of course, causes some changes that put cats more at risk for obesity and overweight. So that really is something you need to address with your veterinarian, coming up with like a feeding plan for your cat that works for your cats. And I could talk about that all day, but from a behavior perspective as well. But as far as the play, like really thinking about how comfortably can this cat move around? Like how mobile are they? Can they realistically jump around a lot? So you might have to do a lot more like what I call ground play, where they're maybe even laying down and just batting at a toy at first while you're hopefully working on getting them in better physical shape. But a lot of it's very similar to senior cats. We're going to assume that there's possible joint pain. We're going to assume there's some discomfort. and limited mobility, and we're going to work within that. So that often means moving the toy more slowly. Like I said, less range of motion. For a young, healthy, active cat, I might be recommending like jumping up on the cat tree and down again and up again and down again and getting a lot of more cardiovascular, high impact play in. Whereas with an overweight cat, it's just not as realistic.
Awesome. So we are at the end of our questions, so it's time for you to do a reading.
Okay.
I will go off camera for you.
Okay. So I'm going to read from chapter 5. This chapter is called Setting the Scene. Just as theatrical productions have props and actors, they also have a stage and set. In the theater, the set is composed of movable and stationary items that set the scene and create illusions. When it comes to cat play, the toys are your props, and you and your cat are the actors. Now let's set the scene for your cat. Your cat is a wild hunter. In their mind, they might be crouching in a savanna, like the homeland of their ancestors. They might be climbing a tree to chase a bird. They might be hiding behind a shrub, stalking a butterfly. They might even be starring in a sci-fi film that allows them to defeat the laws of gravity, climb walls, or slay dragons. Your job is to help them live out the movie playing in their head. Cat toys are the starting point, but we can do more. Look around you. Your home is filled with dozens of available objects that can supplement your play session. Even your recycling bin has something to contribute. Although this guide is non-exhaustive, I hope it's a starting point for you to recognize how you can expand your play world by thinking about your cat's environment just as much as you think about the toys. Making space. I did a consultation once for a man who had a very young, playful kitten and a very small studio apartment. The tininess of his apartment was compounded by the fact that he had a terrible hoarding problem. There were literally piles of books and papers and boxes covering almost every square inch of the floor, bed, and tables. Any surprise his cat was keeping him up all night and biting him at every opportunity? There was really nothing else she could do. I like to have a relatively large open space for play that allows for backflips and stellar leaps, not to mention space to set up boxes, tunnels, and temporary play structures. I would say the minimum play space is approximately 6 feet by 6 feet, but ideally you have an open space that is even bigger, at least during your play sessions. Feel free to move coffee tables, couches, chairs, and the like out of the way to clear a little area for your cat. Even if you don't have one large play space for your cat, think about how hallways and other spaces can connect different parts of a play session together. Perhaps you start playing in the bathtub, then spend some time in the hallway, eventually leading your cat to the living room with a grand finale on their cat condo. You've created more space by creating a maze of sorts that you and your cat move through. You can also gain square footage by thinking in 3 dimensions. Incorporate both cat and human furniture into play to make it more aerobic and dynamic. You will have to determine your house rules for where your cat is allowed and whether you want your cats to play in certain areas. For example, in our house, the couch and dining table are fair game, but the cats are not encouraged to play on the kitchen counters, mostly for safety reasons. Think carefully about whether you will let your cat play on your bed. Now that my cats are adults and sleeping through the night, I do allow them to play on the bed. It's soft and great for jumping and for hiding toys under blankets. And my cat, Professor Scribbles, really loves to play there. But it is possible that for some cats, you may be sending a message that it's okay to play on the bed, and your cat may not discriminate whether humans might be sleeping in it when they want to play. And if your cats are keeping you up all night, keep reading, as I'll be discussing how to get some decent sleep in Chapter 11. There's no one right answer, just what's right for you, your cat, and your precious sleep. Depending on your cat's style of play or what activities you shall partake in, you may want to offer both carpeted and slippery surfaces for play. Consider how the toy you are using may move across the floor. Will it glide and slide, or will it catch and drag? Both can be viable options. Then think about how your cat may move across the floor. For example, carpet or an area rug is great for stability when cats are doing a lot of leaping and backflips. I've known a few cats who like to drag themselves around by their claws a little when they are playing as well. A hardwood floor can be great for on-the-back play or when using cat beds for part of the play. But for older cats or cats with any joint or hip issues, a slippery floor may not give them enough traction to feel comfortable. If that seems to be the case, play in a different area or use an area rug or a play mat to help your cat feel more comfortable. The props. Let's start with the stuff you already have, human furniture. You can encourage your cat to explore 3-dimensional hunting by enticing them to track a toy up onto your couch or a chair. Depending on the rules in your house, tables may also be included. But if your cats aren't allowed on the tables, don't despair. Those tables have legs, you just have to know how to use them. Trail a small toy slowly on the ground until it is partially or completely hidden behind a table leg. You can even tap or scratch the toy against the surface of the leg to make a small rustling sound that your cat will find alluring. Many cats already use the backs or ledges of couches as a free way to get from point A to B. Now you can make it an official part of your play pathway. Couches also have cushions, which are perfect for hiding toys behind or between. One 17-year-old cat I worked with had lost her interest in play until we moved the toy very slowly between some of those superfluous throw pillows that don't serve much function, except apparently to get geriatric cats inspired to move their bodies. And there's no reason not to build a couch cushion or pillow fort for your cat. It provides a perfect hunting blind for your cat to ambush from.
Thank you, Michael. That was absolutely wonderful. So nice to hear you read from it. That was brilliant. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to ask Lucy to come on camera, please. And we're going to talk about the book your cat wishes you would read. And just so that the audience knows, this was published first in the UK and it is about to be published in the US and Canada. I just looked up the publication date just now. It's going to be published on October 29th in the US and Canada, but it is available for pre-order now. So if you're in North America and you want it, you can pre-order it. And Lucy, thank you so much for talking to us about this book. It's full of so much practical advice. And it's so helpful, I think, to cat guardians. And you start by considering where cats come from and what their experiences are. And you have a chapter early on about the cat's sensory experiences. So how should cat guardians take the cat's senses or sensory experiences into account?
So yeah, there is the section. The thing is that section is probably less involved in like behavior side of things. There was a lot that also considered the physical makeup of a cat and how they perceive the world differently to us. So that was quite an interesting read. And I had to do quite a lot of research myself and like, what's actually happening here? What's going on? So I think a lot of that focuses on the fact that the way cats communicate is very different to us and very different to dogs as well. So like they have this whole method of communication by scent, which just totally goes over our head or that we can't pick up on. So I feel like their primary sense or the way they primarily interpret the world around them is on how things smell and how things like how safe the environment feels, much more than how it looks. So it's like when you think about when a cat goes outside, that they have no consideration to the boundaries that we put in and say, no, you must be in this garden and not next doors, please. They obviously don't take any notice of that visual boundary because actually they might have marked next door and another cat might have come in and marked in their garden and things. So there's a whole world out there and inside that they've created for themselves that we just can't pick up on. So it was so interesting to me to sort of give that a lot of consideration and think, yeah, that's actually the case. It's how can we try to tap into how they're feeling when so much of how they're trying to communicate with us, like face rubbing and like rubbing around our ankles, sometimes is seen as like an annoying behavior. They're being impatient and they're waiting for their food because you're making it, whereas actually they're marking you and they're incorporating you as part of their family. So it's nice to get across to people that these things that you're seeing or might not be seeing actually mean so much to your cat, whereas the stuff we might expect from them, like a wagging tail like you might see with a dog when you come home from work, you might not need to see them because that's not really what they're going to do, but it doesn't mean that they don't love you just as much as your dog does.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And your book is full of advice, including for someone who's about to get a cat or a kitten. So you've got that kind of as a starting point and you take people through everything they need to know through their cat's life. But suppose someone is wanting to get a new kitten or a cat, what should they think about in order to ensure that they get a good match?
Oh, okay. So I was very conscious in that section of like getting your cat to make sure it incorporated people getting a new cat as well, like as well as their existing cat, because it's something that comes up so frequently because we worry that our cats, I think someone put it in the chat, that like, does their cat need a playmate or does their cat need companionship? And I think that this specific thing just varies across the whole of the species, because there are some cats that just want a house to themselves and they love the human attention and they love the relationship that they've got with their owners. they might have a good relationship with a dog or another species, as Michael said, but they don't want to share with another cat. Absolutely no way. And so you might see for that individual that if they see another cat from the window, then you're noticing that they might be agitated or upset by that. And you might see their tail thrashing, and people will say like, oh yeah, they absolutely hate other cats, but we thought it would be different if we brought another one in. So it's important to look at what your cat is trying to tell you. Whereas on the other side, they're cats that love company of other cats, and they're super sociable, and even to the point where they don't really gauge the reaction of the other cat. The other cat might be like, oh, I'm not okay. And like, I'm uncomfortable, but this other really sociable cat is like, no, it's okay. And they sort of still are trying to engage in like grooming or like face rubbing or body rubbing, and like those nice behaviors that we'd expect to see can sometimes be quite one-sided. So if you're thinking about how to get the right match, it's definitely important to understand the needs of your cat you already have, but then also the personality of the other cat, because you don't want to bring in a cat that is one of those solitary individuals that just wants house to themselves. You don't want to bring one of those into the multi-cat household because they'll struggle themselves. So it is hard. It really is hard. And a lot of it, even if you're bringing in a kitten where, you know, they haven't got experiences where they have lived with other cats, or they haven't lived with other cats, all of their socialization and all of that, like prepping them for adult life, happens before we get them, because it's between 2 to 8 weeks of age. So if we're picking up a kitten at 12 weeks, which you think will be sort of like a blank slate, that window of socialization is already covered. So it's so important to ask lots of questions and to the breeder or the rescue, and to observe their behavior as much as possible. Like, what are they like with the other cats in the household, in the litter? Have they interacted with an adult cat in the household there? And just probe as much as you can and try to get a picture of you'll know your cat that you've got, but also get a picture of the cat that you want to bring in.
Perfect. Thank you. So what do you think is the biggest thing that cat guardians get wrong for their cat?
Oh no, that's a really good question. I to be fair, it's easy to get it wrong. Like, I don't feel like no one ever means to get it wrong. And I think that there's probably pockets of people that are doing loads of things really well, but then missing something, and that's spiraling into a problem. Like, for example, a common one, well, we're talking lots about play, is playing with kittens. I think it's so easy to engage in that, like, really hands-on, quite rough play. Because like we see them doing that with their litter, like doing roly-polies and like biting each other and kicking each other in the tummy and doing all that sort of social stuff that they do. It's hard to avoid wanting to do that as well. So I see lots of people, like when the kitten does that, like play you rear, and they like rear up on their back feet, lots of people will like grab their tummies and flip them over and rub-a-dub on there, like really get them going, get them playing. But I feel like that's a recipe for disaster for a lot of kittens, because what are they learning through that? And that what they're probably learning is that, oh, okay, hands are toys. So that's that. So if a hand is coming towards me for a stroke or for a medical exam or something or other, then they can grab on, they can bite, and they can do all that sort of play, which the person who is not up for the play session is not going to take well to. So that's when it might lead to punishment. And not that anyone would try to hurt their cat, but they might push them away. They might shout. They might be like, oh no, why are you biting me? I was trying to just hold you or stroke you. So here can spiral off a whole big problem of where it was play. I was biting you because I was playing, but now you're scary. So now the bites become a bit more serious and everything becomes complicated and emotional, and it changes the whole relationship between the person and the owner. So I'm going to plump for rough play. That would be a big common mistake that you just sometimes just do by accident.
Yeah, thank you. I think so. And you've actually managed to pack a huge amount of advice into this book. You've got sound advice on so many different topics. How difficult was it for you to decide what to include?
So I actually found quite easy to write. So it's the only book I've written. And I felt like it was an opportunity to just let everything just fall out of my brain onto the page. So some bits were more tricky than others, but I feel like it was literally just, what do I want everyone to know? And it just came. So I definitely wanted to include like the section on domestication and the information on the species as a whole, because I think that underpins everything that we need to know about our individuals. So it's like making sure we understand that actually they are descended from a solitary ancestor. So they might not want to spend all their time with us, and they're not geared to communicate with us. So we shouldn't be expecting such clear signals and things. So I think that gives us a good grounding, but then it moves on to the chapter on how has your individual been shaped through their breeder and through the environments that they've been in so far. And that's really important too, because your kitten that you got from you found in a bush is probably going to behave a lot more differently to the kitten that was born in a family home. So that it was quite logical, really. The way I wrote it is just, once you've got that underpinning of the species, now we need to understand the individual. And then the bulk of the book, or probably half the book, is then the individual issues that people often ask me. So how can I cope when a baby comes along, and what do I do if my cat's scratching the furniture? And those specific questions that people can just flick through and return to if and when they get that problem later down the line.
Great, thank you. And along with that advice, you've actually got lots of lovely stories about cats that you've woven in, and some of those come from your cat behavior practice. So they're stories of cats that you have worked with. So what was your process when you were writing that, deciding where to put the stories and which of those stories to include in the book?
So it was quite nice for me in that this is so there's another book called The Book Your Dog Wishes You Would Read, which is in the same format and follows the same process. And I read that. So I have my own dog too. So I read that thinking that this is super helpful. And I was taking in all the advice it's written by Louise Glazebrook. So I was taking in all the advice from Louise. And she had dotted in throughout all her personal experiences too. And I really related to that. And it was nice to sort of see what she was saying, but in practice and in real life type thing. So I feel like if I hadn't read that, I would be a bit more reserved and putting a bit of myself into the book, whereas I just went for it. And it's quite fun because I was it's quite a long running joke with my older brother that all the cats hate him all the time. And so I put it in there, my brother comes in and he's tall and he's loud and he ruffles their hair rather than trying to stroke them in a more cat-feeling way and things. So I think that's quite a good illustration, and something I probably tell lots of clients that are doing the same thing or have their family come in that do the same thing. So I just, in terms of choosing them, I think anything I could think of as an example to relate back to, I stuck in. So I was trying to get as much in as possible, but hopefully it's helpful as well as the more sort of information-based stuff.
Yeah, it's incredibly helpful. Thank you. And I'm so happy that this book is coming to North America very, very soon. So just a reminder to the audience, it's available for pre-order now if you're in the USA or Canada. And I know that you've prepared a reading for us. So please, will you do that reading now?
Yes, I would love to.
I'll just go off video.
Okay, so let me find the page. Okay, so this is from chapter 23, which is what your cat wants you to know about behavior problems. So in my role as a behavior counsellor, I have seen hundreds, if not thousands of cats who are displaying challenging behaviours. The interesting thing about this is that what we consider to be a behaviour problem usually isn't a problem at all for your cat. It's a very reasonable and understandable response to the current situation he finds himself in. And with almost every single cat I've worked with, we've been able to unpick the problem to find out what the initial cause of the behaviour is and what's stopping it from improving. For example, would you pee in a toilet that hasn't been cleaned or flushed for a week? I wouldn't, and definitely not happily anyway. So it's perfectly reasonable for your cat to find another place to go where he does feel more comfortable. This is a classic example of a cat developing a problem behaviour because their needs are not being adequately met. Treating feline behaviour problems is not about forcing a cat to accept the challenges of a human lifestyle. It involves understanding what your cat needs, physically and emotionally, and making changes to your own behaviour or environment to help him feel happier and more comfortable. A suitably qualified and experienced cat behaviourist can help you resolve this issue so you no longer have to go on a hunt for pee every morning when you wake up, and your cat can relax in a home where they have everything they need. The difficult part is working out what it is they do need. Every cat is different. They are a product of their experience, both through their socialization and through the experiences they've had throughout their lives. So veterinary examination. So if your cat is showing a problem behaviour, the first thing to do is talk to your vet about it, particularly if her behaviour is out of character. The reason for this is that any behaviour can be caused or exacerbated by a medical factor, literally any. So even if you feel that the cause of the problem is obvious, perhaps you've brought a new cat home and they're not getting along, she may be less tolerant to the new cat if she's not feeling 100%. We need to have all the information to be able to appropriately treat the problem while not compromising on her welfare. Your vet should give your cat a thorough examination, and depending on the issue, may decide to do some further tests. Urinary issues are common in cats, which can lead them to avoid the litter tray if it's painful to pee. So running a urine test is good practice to rule this out first. Dental issues are common too, and a couple of years ago, I worked with a little cat who wasn't getting along with the new dog. Her vet found she needed 10 teeth out, and once she had recovered, my dog's waist up, it's being super noisy now. Where was I? Her vet found she needed 10 teeth out, and once she had recovered, she was a lot more easygoing and accommodating of the dog's behaviour. On the flip side, keep in mind that your vet cannot possibly rule out all potential medical causes on the first examination. So it's important that your vet, your behaviourist, and yourself work as a team to get to the bottom of the problem, to cover all bases to maximise your cat's well-being and give you the best chance of resolving the problem. The role of emotions. Of course, it's not just physical health that can influence behaviour. Your cat's emotional well-being plays an important part too. Cats are sensitive beings capable of experiencing a wide range of emotions, such as happiness and contentment, as well as more negative emotions such as anxiety, fear, or frustration. And these can manifest into behaviour problems. For example, if your cat is feeling anxious about the scary cat that's moved in next door, it may prompt them to urine mark to provide a reassuring message to themselves within the territory. That's what I think in a minute. It's generally believed that cats are not capable of experiencing more complex emotions such as guilt, spite, or jealousy. I find this so interesting as many of my clients will use these emotions to describe how their cat is feeling when explaining their behaviour. For example, I often hear them referring to protest pees when their cat pees on the bed when the client is on holiday, or believing their cat is behaving aggressively to their new partner out of jealousy. This highlights how misunderstood cats often are, and these interpretations of their feelings can affect how a person feels and acts towards them. If you believe your cat is peeing on your bed out of spite, you're much more likely to be cross at them for it. But if you think of them as feeling anxious when they're left alone and peeing in a comforting location, it's much easier to empathise with them and look to understand how to make them feel better in this situation. The problem will be much easier to resolve if we keep this mindset.
Thank you. That was wonderful. It's so nice to hear it in your voice. That was a beautiful reading. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to ask everyone to come back on camera. And I've got a quick question that I'm going to ask each author, but we don't have a lot of time and we've got a ton of audience questions. So I'm going to ask you to answer just in 1 to 2 sentences, if you can. All of these books, they're books that every cat guardian should get. And they are very different, but they're so full of useful advice and illustrations. They give me hope for the cat-guardian relationship. But I'm going to ask you what gives you hope for the cat-guardian relationship. And I'm going to start with Lili, then Lucy and Michael. And just a very quick answer, please.
What gives me hope is that there are all these wonderful books out. There's a lot more material. There's a lot more educational information available now than before.
Great. Thank you, Lucy.
For me, it's that more people than ever are advocating for their cat's well-being. Like the field of animal behaviour, of cat behaviour specifically, is growing and more people want to be involved. So it's all good.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael?
I don't have much to add. I just think that overall there's more interest in cats. And of course, that has its positives and negatives. But I think that there are more people interested in making their cats happy. They want to know, does my cat love me? Is my cat happy?
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn over to Christy for some quick audience questions.
Yeah, we have sadly more questions than we have time because there's some really good ones here. So let's start with Michael. Caitlin asks, if hissing is sometimes a sign that the interaction between two bonded cats is not playful, how do you determine between play and true fighting if your cat is hypervocal? In other words, so many noises during the day, hissing during play with the other cat.
Yeah, some cats are just very dramatic, I guess is how I would describe it. But we never look at just one aspect of their behavior to determine if they're friends. You have to look at multiple aspects. And so if the cats are cuddling when they're sleeping and then things get a little loud when they're playing, I'm less concerned than if as soon as the cats see each other, they are in a ball and screaming. Like that is probably not play, right? So it is really a much more holistic like assessment than just what is happening during that brief interaction where we think they might be playing. And the other thing that's really important to consider is that just because one cat thinks they're playing does not mean both cats are playing. So you can have one cat who is playful and maybe has playful intentions, but it's not received that way by the other cat.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you. So this one I think will be good for Lucy to answer. Ingrid said that she just read a paper on using strollers for cats to get them outside and perhaps enrichment. And I think, I believe Ingrid is in North America. And I think this one sort of raises my interest as like the North American Brit divide, which seems like there's a bit of in the cat world. So I'm curious for your answer on that.
So yeah, I would agree. There's definitely a cultural norm around or cultural differences here. In my experiences, I wonder if across the board, my feeling is that the risks would outweigh the pros. And it's individuals to every cat. Some cat might love it, but if someone to ask me, shall I take my cat out in a stroller? I would steer them to other methods of stimulation. Only because of a couple of reasons. Sometimes I've seen a cat when I wandered, I went out with the kids on the school run and I saw someone with a cat in a stroller near the pond. They just sat there and they were looking at the pond and I was like, I need to go over and I need to see this cat because obviously I couldn't resist. And so I ran over and oh my God, you have a cat in the pushchair. This is amazing. Can I see them? And she was like, yeah, you can stroke the top one. It was a double one. Stroke the top one, but not the bottom one. And because she was scared. And I thought, well, it is an individual and you will get a lot of attention from people like me and other people. Same for backpacks. When people wander around with their cat in the backpack, they're hounded by, in the UK at least, maybe because it's not so common, hounded by people that want to say hello and want to interact with them. And that's not really what we want. Overstimulation is just massive. I think that there's probably, I saw a Bengal recently who the owners had done their research and was like, right, we really, really need to stimulate this Bengal because it's high energy and obviously the traditional Bengals do need a lot of stimulation. So they were throwing everything they could at this little cat who was just an ex-breeding queen and just wanted a quiet life. So she was out in the stroller I just want to be back home. And they were having to sort of force her out. So I think it definitely just depends on the individual. Some cats would love it and would get that stimulation and would enjoy all those things. But we must really be careful that we're not sort of trying our best for the cat, but actually missing the mark a little bit. And they could do with some different sort of stimulation.
Wow, that was a great answer. Thank you. So I have a question for Lili. This is a literary festival. And so one of the things that Zazie and I love hearing about is the process that people go through when they're coming up with their book. Did you have an idea in completion? Did you write an outline? Did it sort of unfold as you did it? How did that work for you?
Well, I looked to doggy language as my format. So I wanted to create something similar, but for cats. And so you'll notice that there are very similar behaviors between the two books, but I've added in more species-specific behaviors and things to think about. And also, I had my friends send me photos of their cats. So a lot of the cats are cats belonging to my friends or the drawings. And of course, I looked at different reference material, videos, social media, and it was a very interesting process. I think I wrote this in the interview that because a lot of the terminology isn't standardized for cat behavior. If you Google or you search for the hashtag cats playing, or cats fighting or cats hunting, you're not going to get what you think you're looking for because there are a lot of misinterpretations. People think their cats are happy when they're not, or when they're playing when they're fighting, or when they're fighting when they're playing. So it was a little trickier to find visual references online.
Sure.
Thank you. I think, unfortunately, that's all we have time for, even though we have so many audience questions. I'm sorry we can't get to them all, but this isn't the end of the conversation. I'm sure we will speak to these authors again at some point in the future. And I want to thank Lili, Michael, and Lucy for joining us today. It's been so great to hear about your books and to hear you read from them. And thank you very, very, very much for coming. As a reminder to everyone in the audience, we've been talking about the book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read. We've been talking about kitty language and also about Play with Your Cat. And these books are available from all good bookstores. We would love for you to support your independent bookstore, your local indie, or you can use the bookshop link that we've shared, which also supports indies. One person has a chance to win some of these books. So the books, I will be doing a draw for the books, but I have to allow a bit of time to process. And also we have a second BarkFest event today. So it will be in a few hours time that I do the draw and email the winner. And the winner also has a chance to get a copy of my new book, Bark, The Science of Helping Your Anxious, Fearful or Reactive Dog, which of course is a dog book, not a cat book, but some of it actually, if you're interested in training, would still be useful for cat people. So thank you again to our authors. Thank you so much to Christy for helping me out today. Thank you so much to all of you for coming and listening. This has been an absolutely wonderful chat. I've hearing more about all of these books. Everyone should get them for their bookshelves. And also thank you to my publisher for some of the work that they've done behind the scenes to help me with this. And the link to the recording will go out in about 3 days' time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Positive Posting Conversation. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the show and write us a review via your podcast app. For the show notes, visit companionanimalpsychology.com. This show was produced by Zazie Todd. The music is Melody from Paris by Studio Le Bousse. See you next time.